Hey everybody, welcome. It's me, Howard Jacobson, and the Mer Goddess. Hello, Sarah.
Hi. Hello, and I even got some waves back here.
Oh yeah, what is that?
It is a lovely banner that says the future depends on what we do in the present.
That seems right.
Yeah.
Uh,
Exactly.
so I want to throw a question at you today, something I've been thinking about for the past few days, and it's about lying and telling lies, telling the truth. And I'm wondering if you can kind of look back on your journey of transformation to the person you are now and the person you are becoming. Whoops, found my microphone. There, there it is. In terms of being more and more truthful. And I'll preface it by saying, like, for me, it feels like the more I feel comfortable telling the truth, first to myself, then to like people that are in my intimate circle, and then to the world, um, the the better my results in terms of things like, especially like keeping my word to myself, telling, like, oh, why did I have that thing that I ate, and not coming up with reasons, justifications, rationalizations, excuses, or like making excuses like why didn't I show up on time and giving people excuses. And it feels like that muscle of being okay with the truth has been really, really important to me as I become more and more of the person that I want to be. And I want to throw it to you to see what your thoughts are.
Yeah, I totally agree with you 110%. Like I remember like with my journey and just I was always not honest with myself first, and so of course I wasn't honest with others. I state that like my whole Olympic, like wanting to be an Olympic swimmer, like I tried to push that part of me away, like I was like, oh no, that's not true, like how could I even do that. So I started my life really lying to myself, and then that portraying to lying to others, and it was natural, right? Because it just felt the norm, because that's what I did. But now, even just like even if I were to use a hashtag, right? Like now, like if it doesn't really represent what I really am passionate about, like I don't feel I need to use that, So now, like the truth is so like I feel a different way if I'm not telling the truth, Like like
Hmm.
if someone were to ask me a question, like I always want to give it the best that I feel. Like I don't need to sugarcoat anything, right? Like I just need to like allow it to be what it is, and it feels the best in my heart. So I would say like now, like if I were to lie, like I would probably be really awful at it. And two, you would like be able to see like my body language, and it just wouldn't feel good, and then I would be kind of like disempowering myself, because now I'm like lying essentially to myself if I'm gonna do all that work to put out for someone else.
That's interesting. You talk about like now it's almost like a smoker who quit smoking. Like then, if they have a cigarette 5 years later, it'll like their body won't be able to handle it. It feels like that's what you're sort of saying, that your threshold for you wouldn't be able to tolerate a lie in yourself.
Yes, totally. I mean, that's exactly what I'm saying. Like, I literally feel like I like the reason why I say the hashtag thing, because I was just doing a hashtag and I found myself like doing something like what I ate today, right? And I was like, this isn't what I ate today. Like, why would I say that, And I literally was like, no, that's not really relevant, because it's not true. I didn't eat that today. I just wanted to share my food, but it doesn't mean that it happened, in this. So like for me, like that was like a lie that had came up, and I was like, no way, like there's no way that I would say that, because it just
Hmm.
wouldn't be true. I would know it. So why would I and if it doesn't make me feel good, then obviously that's not going to portray, what I would like to share with the world, because I wouldn't want people to lie to themselves and others.
Hmm. So, do you remember what your process was to become more and more of a truth teller? Was it something that you were focused on? Was it something that sort of happened as a result of other things? Because it's hard.
I would,
Honestly, like lying is a really powerful habit. Like for me, it's just like whenever it did, if it sort of didn't matter that much, I would always choose the version that just made me look better. So
yeah,
so even little things like, hey, like I'm writing a blog post, and I'll say, hey, I had this conversation recently or today, or like I want to answer a question on my blog, but nobody's asked it. But I want to say a reader wants to know
yeah.
XYZ. Like it was just such an easy thing, and it was like more of a pain to not lie. So like how did you like muscle up for the transition?
I think like for me, like the first awareness would have been when I went through my like really biggest transformation, and that was going through my relationship. Like in the relationship that I was in, I was lying to myself all the time, like trying to just cover up for things that maybe I didn't agree with, but I did them anyway. And so when that ended, or when that like transpired to what I was really going to be becoming, I really started when I started meditating, and I really started like seeing what is it that I see as myself, and then looking at my past self and kind of like understanding that I wasn't being truthful with myself. And that is what created all of the things that I didn't like, was because I wasn't being who I really wanted to be in those situations. And so when I started meditating, and when I started like really owning my truth, like, okay, I'm going to be this Olympic swimmer, and really just kind of like doing it, not really caring what was happening, and not what others thought, but how I felt inside, like it just manifested into this really, great thing of my transformation, and me being able to be who I've always wanted to be for myself, and then letting the world see who that really is. And that's what like I feel like was the biggest thing for me. And I can always like learn, and I can always be more and more in tune with myself as I move forward. But I think for that was just like the biggest acknowledgement for me, to know that for a very long time I wasn't honest with myself, and that's why those situations created what they did.
Mm. So you say like you weren't honest with yourself, and it was in the context of relationship, which is really
Hmm.
interesting. Like for me, I think it's been easier to be honest with myself than to be honest with other people. And I'm
Oh,
wondering, like, if you look at, like, if you talk about your relationships as sort of testing grounds for honesty, like,
yeah.
can you think of like moments that were like you had to be sort of scary honest, and you sort of had a choice to kind of like do things the old way, or say something that might have been hard, or was it more like doing that in your own life for yourself?
I would say like probably a little bit of both, like where, I would maybe do something for someone that maybe I really didn't wholeheartedly agree with, but I had told myself the story that this was like what I did so that I could do this other thing. You know what I mean? And seeing that, and then just seeing my relationship now, and just like I can just be, myself. Like I don't even need to do anything because I need this outcome. Like I think that's what it kind of created for me
Mhm.
was
Hey, I'm having trouble hearing you. Speaking of relationships,
oh
is there somebody loud in
yeah,
your?
I know. Yeah. Um yeah, sorry. Yeah. So where was I going with this? I got distracted, right? Yes, he's in the background, but it's cool. Um So yeah, now I'm like all blushing and forgetting what's happening right now. But yeah, basically, I just recognized it within having those others, and then trying to relate it to myself. But meaning like for now, like say like I want to just take a nap, right? And like maybe he's doing something else, you know. But if you know that were to be the case, like I wouldn't feel like I couldn't take a nap. You know, like in other relationships, in other incidences, like when I would want to do something, I would feel as if I wasn't supposed to or I couldn't. You know.
Mm-hmm. Right. So, like for me, so like telling the truth to other people, especially when it didn't make me look good, or especially when like I would have a concern, and I felt like I wasn't entitled to it. But it wasn't going to go away. It was going to show up, and I was just sort of pushing it down the road, right? Like just a sort of avoidant lying.
Exactly. Yes.
Then there was lying to myself, which is also hard. Like, what do I really want here? To be okay with motivations, to be okay with, oh, that was a thought that I had, and let's not pretend that I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Right. But
Exactly.
for the easiest place, and this is kind of why I want to bring this up in relation to all the whole health journey, is I see like so many people that I work with lie to themselves about little things, which is just say like they don't trust their own word. Like they say, okay, I'm not going to eat X, or I'm going to go to the gym Y, and they don't, or they do. Like they do the thing that they say they weren't going to do, and they sort of brush it off instead of confronting, like, okay, I didn't keep my commitment to myself. I didn't keep my word. And like to me, that's a great place to practice. To say like, okay, like someone will work with a coach, right? You'll be on a well start call, and then someone will say, okay, Sarah, you got me all excited. I'm going to go for a 45-minute walk every morning. And to really nail them down to, are you really? Do you really intend to do this? How important is it for you not to do the walk, but to keep your word?
Mm-hmm.
No. So
yeah, I totally. Yeah, no, I mean, I guess we kind of went into a. I was like, I felt what I wanted to say, but I couldn't actually say it. So there was that.
Right.
Yeah, but no, like I get this all the time, where you'll have someone that is really feels like they'll do it, but really they may not. And so what you're saying kind of makes sense. Like, how do you like create, like develop this muscle, right? Of like saying, hey, I know that I'm going to stick with this, because if I don't, like, it's for myself. It's not even about the coach that's telling me this. It should be about how I'm treating myself, and then that spirals out into wanting to share things that you're wanting to do.
Right. I think there's two sort of really important inflection points in that process. One is you making the commitment. You make the commitment that you are planning to keep, not the commitment that you wish you would keep, or you think your coach wants you to keep, or your doctor wants you to keep, or you want you to keep, but the one that you really intend to keep. Right? And so that's like a really important inflection point. And in coaching, we often challenge our clients at that point. Like, so what could get in the way? Are you really going to do this? Like, what are the other voices, right? To help people get honest with themselves about what they're willing to do and what they're capable of doing. And then
exactly.
And the second inflection point is at that moment where it becomes like, I don't know anyone for whom honesty is not an important value, right? I mean, I'm sure there's people out there. I'm sure we've elected many of them. but like in my everyday life, like if you ask people, like, are you okay being dishonest with yourself and others? Like for most people, they want to feel like a truth-telling person, and And so to be able in that moment, I'm scratching my nose like Pinocchio or something.
Growing.
in, in, in that moment, to be able to say, well, the 45-minute walk, maybe that's not the thing that matters to me right now, but keeping my word to myself is what matters. Right? So to be able to use the engine of your self-esteem and the value that you hold of being a truthful, of being reliable, of keeping your word, right? Everybody wants to be known as someone who keeps their word. And the place to start is with ourselves.
Definitely. And then it just becomes so much easier to, use that muscle. Just like if you're doing an exercise, it doesn't necessarily get easier, but you get better at it, right? And so the more that you practice this, being truthful with yourself and really owning up to what is it that I want to do, then you can start to branch off. Not because others want you. Like that's a big thing. Like a lot of times, like I know for myself, like we'll do things because we think that's what's best for others. But in reality, if it's not what's best for us, we're not going to be successful. There's no way that we can really be at our fullest potential in whatever it is that we want to do if we aren't starting with ourselves and really understanding what it is that we want.
Right. And to understand what we want involves a lot of things, right? Like we have to know ourselves and we have to know the world a little bit. And I think what honesty really is in its essence is like you're an accurate representation of the world in your head, right? Like if you're lying, if you're not aware of your own motivations, if you're not aware of the darkness in your soul as well as the light, you're basically operating with a false map of reality. It's like if I gave you, a map of Paris and told you to try to find your way to the Washington Monument, right? It could be a really nice map, but it's not going to get you there. And so, like practicing telling the truth to ourselves about our intentions and keeping our commitments is really, I think, the easiest way, the most at hand way to begin to get to construct a map of where we are in our environs, as opposed to some other place that we wish we were but aren't.
Yeah, that's a really great way to put it, because a lot of times we're really doing things that we don't believe we can, or we don't, but it's like if we can start with like, you know what, I can get out of bed and sit on my couch and pick up my phone, like I could do that, but then it's like, where's the disconnect when I want to be able to go outside, take that walk, and be able to know that that's something that I want to do, because we do a lot of the things that we want to do all the time, but whether is it good or, is it helping us or is it not helping us? If it's leading us down this other path that we don't want to go to, well, then we can start looking at what are the things that will direct us in that way.
Right on. All right. Any final thoughts for all the people?
I think that was great. So go out there and be great.
Cool. All right. So thank you as always for running with my curveball questions.
Of course, it helps me just stay in the moment. So thank you.
Cool. All right. Catch you next time.
Bye-bye.